It's time to live your stronger life. Hey, I'm Sammy, physio coach and nutritionist, and your hype girl for creating your stronger life. Here, we ditch the quick fixes and build real strength inside and out. So whether you're here to tone up, drop the body fat, build muscle, mental resilience, or ditch the diet culture, or just feel bloody good in your skin, you're in the right place. So let's get into it. Hey fam, I hope you've all had an amazing day so far. Thank you for tuning in. So today we are going to be diving into one of my favorite tools for staying full, or at least fuller, while you're in a dieting phase. And if you've watched my Instagram content, you know what I'm going to be talking about. It is volume eating. And so if you've ever felt like fat loss means you're constantly being hungry and you just cannot stick to your calorie deficit and you just feel like, oh my God, this is absolutely impossible, I'm here to tell you it doesn't have to be that way. Now, I am going to say that being hungry to a certain extent is needed and normal in your fat loss journey, because you need to be in a deficit, and to be in a deficit, you've got to, deprive your body a little bit. And so a little bit of hunger is perfectly normal. But if you are ravenous and starving and unable to stick to your calorie deficit, then utilizing the strategy of volume eating is going to make being in a calorie deficit that little bit more achievable for you. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about what volume eating actually is, why it works so well when you're in a calorie deficit, my top tips and tricks to make it more sustainable, and some easy food swaps that you can start using today. So let's get into it. So first of all, what is volume eating? So basically, it's about maximizing the amount of food that you can eat for the minimal calories. So we prioritize foods that are high in volume and lower in calories and full of nutrients. Think bigger portions, lower energy density, which the good news is when we go for a more whole food based approach, you're going to, in general, be able to eat more food for lower calories, because in general, good quality, nourishing foods generally do tend to be a bit lower in calories most of the time. Not always, but a good portion of whole foods are a bit lower in calories than, your usual suspects of enjoyable, delicious, tasty foods that do tend to be a little bit higher in calories. So when we go for a whole food approach, it usually makes it a little bit easier. So, instead of a teeny tiny 300 calorie chocolate bar that just leaves you starving 10 minutes later, imagine having a big bowl of Greek yogurt full of protein, adding some berries that's super high in fiber, and then you could maybe sprinkle in a little bit of chocolate on top. And now your little measly chocolate bar, which was 300 calories, has turned into maybe a 300 calorie protein fiber loaded bomb-ass snack that it also has a bit of chocolate sprinkled in. So that is an example of volume eating. Or, having, instead of a little snack, you're going to have a little protein bar, or not even I'm doing quote unquote protein bar, those 10 gram protein little nut bars that are 500 calories. Well, imagine having one of those, or just having a meal for two. You could literally put a stir fry of veggies and chicken and some low-cal sauce and have this little mini meal of all of this goodness for less calories than the calories in one of these little oaty muesli calorie dense lame ass bars that are going to keep you full for about 5 minutes. So it's not about restriction, it's about expansion, and it's also about combining the foods you love with the foods that you need in order to feel fuller for longer. So why do we want to implement this in a dieting phase? Because when you're in a calorie deficit, hunger is going to happen, and that is normal, but you can try and outsmart it a little bit with volume eating. It helps to fill up your stomach physically, so that is going to give signals to your stretch receptors to say, hey guys, we are not starving and hungry, our tummy is full, we are totally fine. High fiber foods, often like fruit and veggies, also digest a little bit slower, so they're going to also keep you fuller for longer. And then you're not going to feel like you're missing out because your plate looks fuller. So it's your eyeballs, it's your stomach stretch receptors, it's your taste buds. There are so many things going on that's going to help you feel a little bit more satiated. Another element to this is if you are not eating a wide variety of nutrition, your body is really smart. And so the other little sensors in your body, your cells and in your digestive system, if it's not getting all the nutrients that it needs, it's going to make you crave more nutrition. So if you're eating a low fiber, low protein diet, you're going to be constantly snacking, constantly looking for sugary stuff, constantly craving particular foods, because your cells and your microbiome in your tummy and your body is just craving for these micronutrients. So when you have a diet low in those, you're going to be craving all of these other foods so much more. That's why people struggle with sugar cravings and chocolate. And I can't put down the chocolate. I'm eating all night long. It's because you're actually not fueling your body adequately with all these other nutrition. So that's why the body's like screaming for all this other stuff. So hopefully that makes sense as well. So there's some different reasons why having this volume eating and this more whole food approach is really beneficial. And so it's also a practical mindset shift. It's like instead of focusing on what you're cutting out, you're focusing on what you can add in to what you want to have in order to actually feel good and energized and fuller for longer. So here are my go-to tips for volume eating success. They're real world, no BS strategies, no stupid like recommendations of go load up on konjac noodles unless you want to have a tummy ache. You know, that's one strategy. They are very low in calories, but also if you eat too much of them, they're like pure fiber that's going to really hurt your guts. So I would not rely on konjac noodles to keep you full. Let's go with more real whole food approach. So step 1, let's build every meal around protein and fiber. Think lean meats, eggs, tofu, egg whites as well, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, and then we want to have like veggies, salad. You could have lentils and legumes and fruits, and then certain fruit swaps and certain veggie swaps can also help to increase your volume. So for example, instead of having a banana, swap to berries or melon fruit because you're going to get way more bang for your calorie buck with those sort of fruits. And instead of having sweet potato, switch to a spudlight or a pumpkin. You're going to get way more bang for your buck in that regard as well. So there's also like other sneaky little swaps that you can do within these whole foods that are also going to give you more bang for your buck, more volume for a lower calorie option as well. So start meals with a volume base as well, you know, using lettuce, grated zucchini. You could add in cauliflower rice to buff out your rice, shredded cabbage, like other foods like this that are super low calorie. They're going to bulk up your meals, combine them with your pasta, with your rice. So because as you're dieting, you're going to inevitably have to decrease your rice, decrease your pasta. Certain foods like that are going to have to decrease in volume. So why don't you keep the actual physical volume of the meal the same, but buff it out with these veggie options? Plus bonus points, you're going to get more fiber and more micronutrients. So some other high volume veggies that are pretty very, very low calorie are cucumber, mushroom, capsicum, zucchini, carrots, green beans, spinach, like all of those sort of things are fabulous as well. Pumpkin and spudlight are my two best friends in my dieting phase. And spudlight or potatoes are one of the most satiating foods that you can possibly eat. Boiled potatoes are the best. For satiety as well as another fun fact, but baked pumpkin is also absolutely elite. And like other things too, like I mentioned before with fruit, for instance, like in a dieting phase, I don't eat bananas. It's just way too many carbohydrates. It's way too many calories for the volume compared to the calories that I'm on. So I'm just going to switch to berries, watermelon, rockmelon, like that kind of those fruits where I'm going to get more bang for my buck and still make sure that I'm getting the nutrients that I need. The same as my calories get lower, I will swap rice for potatoes. And that is like another example of how you can, without losing out on the food volume and still getting carbohydrates in, I'm just being able to make sure I can eat more for the lesser calories as my calories decrease in a dieting phase. So there's a couple more examples. You can totally utilize low calorie sauces as well. I definitely have sauces cheat sheets on my Instagram. I've posted it a couple of times, but you know, mustards, vinegars, you can get low sugar like barbecue sauce and tomato sauce. If you're in Australia, the Mingle brand tomato and barbecue sauce is amazing, super low calorie. Soy sauce, you can also use hot sauce. Even the fat-free mayo, and then, you know, herbs, spices, lemon juice, anything like that. Herbs and spices, free for all pretty much. So you can take boring meals and amp up the flavor to make yourself enjoy it as well. But one interesting thing though is if you make it too flavorsome and too enjoyable, you're almost not going to want to stop. So sometimes if you're struggling, go basic. The more simple it is, the less you're going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. I want to keep eating more and more and more of it. And the more you're going to be like, cool, that was yum. I feel satisfied. I'm done now. That's it. I'm not craving more because it wasn't stupidly delicious. So sometimes actually the boring stuff helps you stay on track more, because when you go too wild, your body's just going to want more of it because it tastes so freaking good. So that's something else just to consider as well. But if you do find that you actually can stick to your diet better when you do add more flavorsome stuff in, then go for it. And then for other people, you may find that too much flavor actually makes it harder to stick to it. And so you just adapt based on what suits you best as well, of course. And then another really like underrated element is eat slowly and mindfully. Give your body time to actually register your fullness. You can hoover down a meal in 3 seconds and not even realize you ate if you're not aware of it. And that's going to make you feel like you didn't eat anything at all. And no wonder you're still hungry and looking for more. So if you can be a little bit more mindful and slow down and really chew your food and enjoy the flavor of it and be present with your meal, you're going to also have more satiety and feel fuller for longer from it as well. So here's some other top foods that you can do some swaps to save calories and add volume. So instead of having like a whole cup of rice, you could do half rice, half cauliflower or zucchini or broccoli rice. Instead of just like any old bread, swap to the country split bread. That's going to be way lower calories and it's going to fit within your it's going to be fitting in way easier than if you picked like a bread that is 200 to 300 calories for 2 slices versus country split, which is like 110 calories for 2 slices. You're then going to be able to eat more food around that because the 2 slices of bread aren't taking up such a huge chunk in your day, for example. Same with pasta, do half pasta, half like zucchini noodles or something like that. If you want to just swap chippies, like crisps and things, adding in popcorn is a nice idea because it's got more fiber and you're going to get more bang for your buck in the volume department. And so therefore you're going to be able to eat more. It'll be more satiating, right? If you want to just swap, if you always have like ice cream for dessert, I mean, there's lower calorie ice creams these days anyways, but it would be also more satiating to have like a protein yogurt with some frozen berries and chocolate on top. Would also be a little bit more health. I hate saying healthier because there's no good or bad food. All food is totally allowed, but if you wanted a more nourishing option with a little bit more vitamins, minerals and protein, then go for a protein yogurt with frozen berries instead of ice cream. But if you want to have the ice cream, maybe you could do half a serve of that and then half a serve of something else that you need, or half a serve of ice cream and fill the other half up with some fruit to give you some more fiber. That's also going to make that little snack a little bit more satiating as well. Another interesting one is granola, because granola is like everything. I'm not going to say it's healthy or unhealthy, but people choose granola over cereal because they think it's the better option. However, granola, I'm just talking about for fat loss, granola is very high in calories, right? So you know what? Cereal is usually a better option in this case because you're going to get the puffed cereal, you're going to get more volume for lower calories, and it's still giving you that nice little crunchy topping on whatever you're putting the granola on top of. So whilst people think I choose granola because it's healthier, I can't even say it's healthier because often granola just has just as much sugar as a cereal does anyway. So, have what you prefer, have what you like. But if you want more volume, then I would go with a cereal like Rice Puffs or Cocoa Bombs or something like that over having a granola purely based on fat loss goals and calories and volume eating here. Same with nuts, like snacking on nuts is just a calorie bomb waiting to happen, and it's very hard to stay like on top of your portion control with nuts unless you're really weighing them all out. But then you could go for something like roasted edamame beans or chickpeas or popcorn. Like if you want those little crunchy snack, that might be a better option for you. And fun fact, crunchy snacks are actually more satiating than non-crunchy snacks because it's just like that chewing that kind of helps to improve your satiety signals as well. So volume eating is not about dieting harder, it's just about dieting smarter, and it can be a tool to help make fat loss not be so miserable. You can eat big, satisfying meals and enjoy your food and still make progress. It's not about cutting your portion sizes, it's not about eating tiny portions, it's about eating the right foods in the right amounts with intention, and also have the foods you love sprinkled in with the foods you need. And the magic of this only happens when you track your macros, track your calories, and track your food accurately. Volume eating won't work if you don't actually track your calories. Portion control, whatever the hell that means, really, come on, like cut your portions in half. No, because that is why you're starving and hungry and depleting your body of important nutrition. Just track your calories so you can have this volume eating and sprinkle in the fun stuff, and you'll actually be able to stick to your diet long enough to get results. So if you're someone who always struggles with portion control, late night snacking, you go through these binge and restrict cycles and you just think staying in a calorie deficit is just way too bloody hard, then volume eating can really help break that cycle for you. And if I had $1 for every time I had a lady come to me tell me that she's nervous to go into a calorie deficit because she was always starving and hungry and felt like she never got to eat anything, and then I put her in a calorie deficit, she's like, oh my God, I'm eating so much food, I'm so full. I get told from my ladies they are full more often than not because they're finally eating enough fruit, veggies and protein and fiber, their bodies and themselves are like, holy moly, this is a lot of food. I did not expect that. And they're dropping weight. So volume eating is actually quite amazing. And I'm not talking like kilos of stuff that's just ridiculous amounts of food. In general, I say like 150 grams to 200 grams of veggies per meal is like absolutely solid. It's nothing too wild. Anyway, so that is it for today with volume eating. I hope this episode has given you some practical tools and mindset shifts so you can incorporate and start utilizing some volume eating to your advantage. So if you found this helpful, make sure you share this on your social media so I can tell that these are not videos. These podcasts are actually beneficial. And so let me know. I hope these do help. And make sure you are following me on Instagram because I do post a lot of content for calorie saving swaps in the grocery store, and also have like resources on how to track your macros and just make this volume eating process a lot easier for you as well. Anyways, fam, I will catch you in the next one. Hope you are having an amazing day. Thanks for listening. Thanks so much for listening. If you found this episode valuable, please rate, review, and subscribe. And I'd love if you shared this on your Instagram and tag me Sammy_livestrong. And if you'd like to learn more about my coaching and join the Project Livestrong family, please message me Livestrong on Instagram and I'll see how I can help. I'll see you next time.